Recording in progress.
Perfect. Okay. I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. We'll start with a roll call. McKee here, Schultz.
Here.
Bottoма.
Present.
Behrenkamp.
Here.
Nichols.
Here.
Perfect. We'll go on to the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd like to stand and join me. Pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda approval. Do we have anything from staff? I think a couple minor things.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We do we're asking for the removal of the draft minutes of the June 9th meeting. We'll hopefully have those at a future meeting. Due to some challenges, we weren't able to get those completed. We do have a minor clerical change to our resolution 2022 118. We had one judge who has done the training who didn't make it on that original resolution. So we have an updated copy in the book and at the dais. And then we are asking for just some consideration with the capital improvement plan 10B for the police department is looking at maybe modifying slightly one of their capital improvement plan purchases, staying within the same budget, in addition to the other amendments that are on there.
Gotcha. Okay, anything from council?
I'd like to add an item to new business.
Okay.
I was talking to staff, and an issue came to my attention from a resident, and I think we needed to have a discussion for future discussions regarding traffic control for pedestrian crossings.
Okay.
Maybe a policy.
Sounds good. So we're thinking like a 10C there.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Can I pull a consent agenda item, or do we do that later?
We'll do it in a second.
Okay.
Okay, if there's nothing else, then I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended with the removal of 7A, a couple changes Jessica outlined in the addition of 10C.
Second. Or I'll make a motion.
Got a motion with a
Second.
second? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Commission representatives, Corinne and Judy. Perfect. And then on to open forum.
Perfect. Anyone wishing to speak in virtually or in person here for the open forum, anything not on the agenda, please come to the podium, state your name and address. Anyone joining us virtually can press *9. If you're joining us on a telephone, or click reactions and raise your hand, and we can recognize you. Mayor and council, at this time, no one is raising their hand virtually.
Sounds good. I'm just making a quick note here to add 10C, and if I do forget, please remind me.
Mr. Mayor, just a quick question.
Yeah.
How many people do we have?
We have 4 people, and 3 of them are staff members.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you guys for coming
Yeah.
very much.
Okay, then we will move on to consent agenda, which consists of items 7B through 7K. And John, did you have something?
Yeah, may we pull J, please?
7J, the election judge resolution?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
Do we have to pull 7A since it wasn't provided?
We removed it.
I
from the
removed
agenda.
this for the agenda.
Sorry.
No worries. Anything else? Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items 7B through I and K.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, item 7J. John? Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have any disagreement with it, but I wanted to pull it out in recognition that there are lots of places in America where they don't have enough election judges. And I'm really proud that our community has a lot of election judges. They are critical to a fair system. And I think that we can count on having a fair election here.
Yeah.
It's really important.
Good point.
Mayor and council, I just note that we noted that the hourly wage, we need to update to minimum wage, so those will, numbers in there will adjust slightly, and the head judges get 50 cents more per hour. So
Gotcha. Do we need to make a change to the
Oh,
resolution?
if you're
or-
comfortable with it, with the approval, that could be a
Gotcha.
friendly amendment to the resolution.
Okay,
Thanks for staff, too, for training them.
for sure.
Are we seeing a lot of early traffic?
We are at about 70 absentee voters so far.
Okay.
Nice.
Getting busier too.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve or consent agenda item 7J as amended, as Jessica laid out.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Perfect. On to planning business. We have a public comment opportunity for items 8A and 8B, which are gateway signage discussion and Cook Lake Highlands street and utility connection update.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Anyone wanting to speak virtually can press star 9, or click the reaction and raise your hand. Anyone in the audience can come to the podium and state your name and address. Mayor and Council, at this time, no one's raising their hand. We do have a few more people who could.
Good deal. We'll go right into 8A.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor and Council. This was a holdover item from our the approval of the Tavera project, and really it hinges on whether or not the city does want to put in a gateway sign and to give some feedback to our, to Lennar to come up with some options for us. So that's one of the things that we had in the approval resolution, is for them to work with staff. There was some discussion on whether or not we wanted the sign, but if we do want a sign, we did talk about bringing it back for some further discussion and feedback. So this is, we can have a lengthy conversation, or if you have ideas, happy to provide those to Lennar, and they come back with a design, but just wanted to make sure that we kept this on the agenda.
Gotcha. Anyone have any particular thoughts?
I do have some
I
examples.
thought we did this a year ago. Did we already have a discussion about general themes for?
We looked at a couple signs like this and had the conversation of, do we want something?
We did have the discussion, and then we said, back in, when we did the approvals earlier this year, that we weren't sure exactly if we wanted a sign, so we left it
Okay.
in for a future discussion. And so really it's, do we want a sign? Could be one question. They will be putting it in and designing it. So that was a PUD benefit of the preliminary approval. So it's really whether or not we have any strong desire for a sign, and then just some ideas on what that might look like.
Do you have a guess as to what I want on the sign?
I could not find a silo.
8 silos.
Just
to
be fair.
Look at that Crosby sign and
Yeah.
those, each thing, like, I don't want a generic sign that speaks nothing of anything about Corcoran. So like, for me, that Cabela sign would be out.
Yeah, it just was
No, I know.
a nearby sign.
You're not advocating for it. I know that.
Not at all.
And even St. Charles's would be out, but that Crosby one with silos on each side, to pay homage to our rural history. So that, but listening to me and believing anything I say about art or design is, be forewarned, you may be a fool. But that's what I would like to see. Something that at least does our town justice.
I would agree. I want something that ties in what we are more than just a generic sign that you could see anywhere. I kind of like something with some verticality, like not necessarily specifically like the Elk River one, but something that's taller. Seems to not be as commonplace. You don't see them as often.
I agree with both of you. I don't care if it's vertical or horizontal.
Silos are.
Silos are okay. Silos will be vertical unless they blow over. In terms of theme, I thought something more natural, like egrets or sandhill cranes, some cattails and marsh grass, something that's, unique to the environment that we have.
With no volume.
With what?
I got 30 egrets out. You can't hear yourself think when they start that.
Yeah.
Built
So,
in.
no audio.
No. Okay.
So you don't want it to squawk at cars
Oh,
going
my
by?
God. And just, I gotta say it, what's wrong with the St. Charles sign?
It's his hometown, so.
so-
I'll tread lightly on that one.
It was so neat to see that, but the
I
redundancy
had-
is absolutely crazy. The amount of money they stuck into the sign on the water tower and then plop a St. Charles sign in front of it. That's is what it looks like. I don't want that redundancy. But I am proud that that is my home. So,
Yes.
Good job,
Not
you
know
guys.
that.
So
Pretty
it's the
cool.
gateway to Whitewater.
State Park.
Yes, it's beautiful, but they should have made some sort of vertical or horizontal integration with wildlife or
Yes.
whatever the heritage that St. Charles is all about.
The sign on the water tower actually was better than the one they put on recently, so.
Yeah.
It was unique.
Am I good? Am I okay with
You're
it now?
okay. I haven't thrown you out yet.
Any thoughts?
I guess I'm not so hip to having a gateway sign unless we're gonna have gateway signs in more than just one spot in the city, you know, and we didn't request a gateway sign coming in on 10 as part of that development.
We did have one in the original approvals, if I remember, and we did not with the final approval, is my
Sound right.
recollection. Or there was some discussion at one point of a gateway sign.
You don't have
You
to.
didn't, you chose not to.
Right.
Yeah, we did.
That's kind of my point, is we didn't choose to push that forward, and just because it was offered in this location, I think if we're gonna move forward with it, we should push forward on more of our access points into the city, like on the north side of town, and we really should have then considered it on the east side of town, and then coming up 19 or coming down 19 as you come into that part of the city. So for me, it doesn't really, I'm not really too hip on the idea.
Gotcha.
And I guess if we do move forward with it, my suggestion would be is that you come up with a design that can be consistently used throughout the city. So not only it applies to Lennar, but we apply it to other future developers.
Right. I talked to you briefly about this the other day of if there's any like signage themes that we're gonna be looking at for City Park.
That would
There's
be, we don't
things-
have that finalized yet, but we'll be looking at something like that.
Something
so
worth
that we could
conversation.
Incorporate into
Yeah.
into the design.
Any other big design ideas?
No Lennar logo.
No, Leonard. I agree with
And
that.
that's okay. We have full authority to have the sign be whatever we would
So,
like it to be.
do we vote on this?
No, I don't think so.
I mean,
what's that?
read then?
if you want us to not move forward with a sign, it'd be great to have that direction. If you want us to have them come up with some ideas, and work with their, based on some feedback and come up with some options, we can bring that back. But we wouldn't necessarily need a motion to do that since they're required to, it was a requirement of their beauty.
I'd like to see them, see what they come up with.
I would too. I wouldn't necessarily, if I'm picking between benefits and a PUD, I wouldn't pick it as the thing I would focus on, but it was something that the council at the time did work in at the approval of Tavera, so I would want to see it developed.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. There's no sense in losing that value right now. If they're paying to design it, we might as well
Yeah.
let them design it. We can decide not to
Right.
move forward with it or move forward with it later.
Maybe we'll love it enough that we will want to do it in more places.
Yeah. Ship has sailed on your project, so you don't have to worry about that.
Not across the street, though.
Yeah, or slightly down the hill.
Okay, so good there? Perfect. We'll go on to 8B, which is Cook Lake Highlands.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just a quick update here on Cook Lake Highlands. In September, there was some discussion, and we provided some flexibility on beginning street and utility work with some required documents to be provided, letter of credit, park dedication, pre-construction meeting, and compliance with their construction hours. We did receive the stormwater agreement, and we do have copies, and we've executed the encroachment agreement and easement agreement, and there's a CCA, cooperative construction agreement. So we have received those from the Met Council and are working to execute those final documents for the Cook Lake Highlands project. So that's the update, is that we're close and likely to be able to release for recording as soon as tomorrow, hopefully.
Okay.
Very nice.
I can explain that, why it's tomorrow and not today.
Sure, if
We
you
had,
want to. If you could come up to the mic.
yeah. Good evening, members of the council. I'm Beth Houston with Track Development. The owner got COVID. We just got the documents on Monday from Met Council, and he told us that he came down with COVID. So the other owner is going to get his signature from him tomorrow morning. So we will have those here and delivered to the city, and then we'll go from there on the filing of the file.
Makes sense.
Very good.
Hope he's doing okay. So in terms of,
In terms of approval, if there's any other, I think that we've gotten the documents as close as
Yeah.
we could. If we do want to give, as long as they're being recorded tomorrow, I think that they would likely be able to
Go ahead.
continue.
So all the developers' agreements were delivered, what, 2
On
or 3 weeks
September-
ago?
yeah, on September
Yeah,
30th.
so all of those, but it was just Met Council
Mhm.
that we were waiting on. And they, just to clarify, they won't be filed tomorrow.
Okay.
They'll be delivered here for signatures. Met Council will not sign until both the city and the owner have signed. So they'll
Gotcha.
wait to sign last. And I sent you that email just so that you have it. I know your attorney got it, but that's what they're requiring. So we're going to get everything delivered and executed that the owner has to execute of Met Council's documents tomorrow.
Gotcha.
And then we'll get them to Met Council. And then,
That's the next
once Met
step.
Council signs, we can file the plat with all of the documents at once. And they have to go in a certain order, so.
gotcha.
So if we wanted to, we could extend that another
Yeah, that's what I was
few
trying to
weeks
think.
to allow
Do we-
the Met Council to execute everything.
Yeah, I'm just trying to
we
think,
could do
how,
a
do we have any
formal-
sense of how long that would need to be?
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
I'm talking with, we've had some challenges in getting them to getting back documents, even the cooperative construction agreement took 2 weeks to get back. So
Mhm.
if we did an extended approval through the end of October or
Any thoughts on that?
mid.
I'll make a motion to allow until the second Friday in November. Because at this point, everything is basically signed. Are we running any risk by giving them extra time? I know you guys have run a sprint to get to this point, so it seems reasonable to me to go that far.
Yeah, I'd
And it
second that.
can take 3 to 5 days to get an appointment with the county, just, that can just,
Gotcha.
the title company will
Yep.
record it.
But we'll get it all to the title.
We have a motion and a second?
Yeah,
Mhm.
the terms are all set, correct? I mean, there's no changes that can be made, so
No.
thank you for working with the spirit of what we put forward.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Likewise.
When do they stop working anyways? It could be, that's when the ground
Until we're done.
Depends on the weather.
freezes, yeah. So
Could
like.
be tomorrow, could be
Yeah.
December.
Okay, so,
It's really weather dependent.
yeah. So, it's gonna freeze tomorrow, or the next day, or whatever.
Won't stay frozen.
I know. Okay, so we had to not do,
We had a
I'll
motion,
second.
second. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
That was, the discussion without saying it.
Okay.
Anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Who made the motion, Jeremy?
I did.
Jeremy, seconded by Ellen. Okay, moving on to unfinished business, another public comment opportunity for 9A and 9B, which is the water treatment plant plans and specs, and authorizing bid, as well as conduit debt policy.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Excuse me, anyone wishing to speak in the audience on these items can come to the podium, state your name and address. And anyone joining us virtually can press *9 if they're on a phone. If they're on an electronic device, you can press reactions and Facebook. Mayor and Council, at this time, no one's raising their hand.
Okay, we'll go right into 9A.
Can I make a motion?
Sure.
Approval of 9A?
Do we have a second?
I would second that.
I have a question before we vote.
Further discussion?
I was wondering, I know that all this is doing at this point is authorizing for bids. I'm wondering, is there a way as we bid to try to encourage bidding in such a way that we have the opportunity to achieve any savings should material costs fall significantly in 2023 or 2024 if the recession starts to get worse? Maybe there's some cost deflation that we might encounter. Is there a way to bid it in such a way that we could capture some savings if that were to happen?
I'd have to probably talk to the city attorney on that. That's a little bit probably unique. I know we have some things in there where isn't there a form in there, Ash, that we basically get tax-free for the material purchases because we're a city, so we are capitalizing on the no tax eligibility, if I'm stating that correctly.
Yeah, so what is included is basically an assignment where the contractor would be assigned an agent of the city, and that would then allow the city to apply for a rebate on all the taxes paid for equipment for water treatment. When it comes to like material costs and commodity prices, that isn't something that the contractor is set up to do. There really isn't a good mechanism to do that.
And I think,
And as you go along, contractors really do need to lock in prices and, you know, is there materials because there are such long lead times, so you're a bit at the mercy of that. With the alternates, we have, you know, tried to do our best to allow the city flexibility on where you go in at price point wise and how the bids come out, so. Yeah.
I will say, as someone who works in construction, it's only been going the worst direction.
Yeah.
I don't anticipate that being something if we even could take advantage, that we'd have the chance to, but.
The way to do it in private industry would be to buy put options on steel.
Concrete,
And
everything
concrete.
else.
Yeah, but steel's a pretty easy, I mean, yeah, you can, I know you could buy commodities, put options to, if you think that's the direction, that's how you would do it.
I wouldn't want to gamble on it, but I'm just wondering. you know,
No, but the options aren't gambling if
I
they're used
appreciate
to
that.
hedge
Yeah.
specific risks,
Yeah.
especially if you buy a put option.
I think the likelihood of materials costs going down in the next 2 years is very low,
Yeah.
especially given the natural disasters we've had. It's going to suck a lot of resources.
Yeah.
That's a good point, too. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
So,
I'm just saying it's an option, pun intended.
Yeah.
If we wanted to work like the private industry would buy put options on commodities if they were worried about that.
can I ask a question? So, the development process with this, the contracting process, the bidding process, is this totally different than what we went through with the city remodel project, where we had a designer, architect, or whatever that was in charge of it, and they came in with estimates, and we backed off things because their numbers were so high, and then it came in so much lower?
And this is, I think, I would say is probably a little bit different because we're just designing the system and then they'll go out and bid the actual, the project.
basically the plans and specs of what they're bidding as a lump sum, and it's a different kind of contract mechanism. Estimating projects like this is really challenging, so I think it's different because we're probably either gonna go alternates or no-go, right? Base bid, alternate, or no-go, where that one, we got a cost estimate, and then before we actually got final pricing,
Yeah.
we made the adjustment. We're setting out there what we want in 2 scenarios. We're gonna get those prices, and then we either give the thumbs up or thumbs down. If we don't like the prices, then we pause and rebid, wait 6 months, whatever that may be, but we don't we're set up for a thumbs up or thumbs down on basically the bids that are presented to us. So it's final, actual, real bids where with the architectural situation you're describing, we made adjustments on a projected cost basis. Here, we're not making adjustments. We've been trying to follow that through, but we're saying we want to see real numbers. We're not going to adjust until we see real numbers. So it's maybe a little bit different approach and a little different contract mechanism.
Okay, and then how is this process different than what we've done with street improvements, where we've gone out, we've got like an engineering estimate of what the cost is, right? And then we go out for bid and we've come back with, our bids are in many cases lower than what our estimates were. We don't really have an estimate here from city's own perspective other than a number that we've seen, months or a year ago.
I think it was 6 months ago, we revised the cost estimates roughly, and we talked about revising them before this meeting. But it's really such an exercise, and it's such a unique project, right? When we're talking street projects, it's standardized materials. We have a good sense of the market. We can look out what's recently bid. We know the suppliers. It's a little easier to guess that. This is specialty products, custom orders. It's just a different animal, so we didn't want to, the value in this is the real number we get. So if we ask the engineering consultant to produce another number, it could be completely off.
Yeah.
And we're at the point where the real number is what matters, so we didn't feel like it was value in that exercise.
Well, and the volatility of building materials, some of the quotes you're getting on things
And we're
are only
locked
good
in-
for a couple days.
Yeah, and we're locked in for 60 days once we get the price. We have some time. If the numbers are crazy, we don't like the numbers, we want to do some analysis, we'll bring it back in December 8th. When you see that information, if there's something we need more, we have some time to do some modeling, work with the finance team to really set the projections, see what the world looks like. So really, we just want that because it's a real number. What we're seeking is a real number we can make a decision off of.
Okay.
And the other difference between like a street project and this is a lump sum project. It's just managed structurally different, where the other one's a unit price project, so you're just paying differently in how you're administering the contract. There's pros and cons to each, but on a project like this, it's very common to do a lump sum project the way they have it set up.
Okay, well, thank you for the explanation.
Yep.
With this kind of a bid process, what's the probability of going over the estimate where the city would have to incur additional cost beyond what is originally approved?
You mean like change orders result in, once we award the project, it going over
Right.
the lump sum? That's really based on, I think the risk is the same between the two. It's really just based on just the quality of the plans and the information and working with it really is where, there's some elements of unknown, right? All of a sudden we open up the ground and we did soil borings here and there's something crazy that happened. So change orders are a tool of a project. Sometimes they help, sometimes they hurt. Sometimes they just happen for unforeseen. But the goal would be that we have them for the unforeseen and not for just a human aid. So I think that's more of what leads to overruns often than whether it's a unit price contract or a lump sum contract. I don't know if you have anything to add to that. But.
Yeah, I think that's a good summary and way to state it. A change order could happen. It's not going to happen if the prices go up. They're going to lock in that price, and so given the uncertainty, you might think like there's some
Buffer?
built into their number at the forefront, because they might anticipate, okay, we'll have to pay for concrete a year from now. How much is that going to cost? And so that's, I think, how that would be built in. There wouldn't be like a mechanism for them to say, by change order, well, we bid it at this price, we want a change order because it costs twice as much. That's something that they could ask, but you wouldn't be under any obligation to say yes to.
Okay, thank you, Ash.
Anything else? We did have a motion in a second, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
None. Thank you. 9B, which is the conduit debt policy.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. On September 22nd, we looked at a few variations of a conduit debt policy.
Wait. Do we have to answer these questions, or can we make a motion as it reads?
You can certainly make a motion. I put in here what we had talked about on the 22nd, so it encompasses the discussion that happened on the 22nd.
Yeah.
The two members who weren't here want to make changes, we we certainly can do that. And as we continue to, if we see other people utilizing this, we might, as we get some more experience, want to see some changes to our policy.
If you want to.
I would like to make a motion
Okay.
to adopt the debt policy as presented.
Do I have a
Second.
second? Any discussion?
The fee rate seemed to me that could be quite high on some of these debts issuances.
I think that's why we included the language, the as negotiated.
Or as negotiated by council. So we did try to leave some flexibility. The city of Maple Grove has 1%. Some other cities had the 0.75%. We looked at, there was a study that,
Mhm.
looking at the state, that had some ranges, anywhere between that 0.25 and 1 was in the middle. So we certainly, on each application, could look at it. With the St. Therese project, we, since we didn't have the policy adopted, we did look at we had their proposal, talked about their budget, and kind of did somewhere in between what they had budgeted for the base, which was higher than the initial amount, but would have been lower than this 0.75.
So does the amount of debt issuance affect the city in any way? We're capped out, aren't we? What we can host for,
10 million.
So there's not an amount that we can get capped out on for the issuance necessarily, but so every year we get 10 million bank qualified bonds that we can use. So it's really a matter of if we have other debt that we have planned, if we want to use that bank qualified status or not. So that's when we can decide that we're not ready we want to use that and get better rates for our projects and not allow them to move forward, or tell them they have to wait and that they can't use our BQ.
okay. And then my other question was regarding to the refunding and refinancing fee. What type of administrative costs are we looking at if an organization wants to refund or refinance the bond?
It's generally pretty similar to, but I think that seem to be pretty similar process that we may have to do the public hearing, but it's a pretty similar process. But usually is a lower amount is what we've typically seen with those. So that's why the percentage is lower.
Yeah, I mean, 50% on a large bond is still quite a large fee for somebody to refinance or refund. So that's not negotiable though, on that portion? Did you write that in there? Or
We
is that
didn't,
fixed?
we put that as fixed. So it's certainly something, as we haven't had a lot of experience with this, I think that we might end up deciding that we want to do something.
It's 50% of the negotiated rate up front. Is that what it's designed as?
I believe.
50% of the 0.75 or whatever.
Whatever it is.
So
Was
it could be that,
negotiated.
yeah.
Okay,
Yep,
all right.
yes. Yeah, the previously, yep.
Gotcha. The only other question I had, which was not really an important one, was what would be the alternative to requiring an application?
We just get information and not a standard format.
Okay.
We'd get a letter, maybe.
So not a good alternative.
I think the application allows us to get similar information from everyone, and someone could, as we see with land use applications, we'll see a 10-page narrative sometimes, or a hand-drawn sketch.
Right.
So it's, the additional information we might not get, but at least we have what the costs are
Yeah.
and, or what they're looking at for issuance, and if they're requesting something different than our standard fee, having a spot for them to put that, I think makes
Gotcha.
a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think they can easily fill out an application if they want to go down that route. Anything else? Otherwise, we did have a motion and a second, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carries. Going on to new business, another public comment opportunity for 10A, B, and C, which was added.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Anyone joining us virtually, you can press star 9 if you're joining us via phone. Otherwise, if you're joining us via tablet or other electronic device, you can press the reactions and raise your hand. And anyone in the audience, feel free to approach and give your name and address. At this time, no one virtually is wishing to comment.
Okay. Go right into 10A.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm going to turn it over to.
Can I make a motion?
Sure.
Direct staff, I will make a motion to direct staff to complete the draft budgets as presented.
Do we have a second?
I'd second it.
Okay.
With the
Any?
amount of time we've spent on this,
Yeah.
we've talked a lot.
Yes, we have. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
10B, 2020.
Thank you for preparing it, Maggie.
Wouldn't be able to go that quick if we didn't have this all, like you said, Dean, we've gone over it a lot and
The
had good
conversation
information.
and then the details are outstanding. Thank you.
10B, capital improvement plan amendments.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I can do, I'll briefly just kind of outline the request from the police department, and I will have Kevin outline the request from Public Works. So,
Can I make a motion to approve this one, too?
Sure.
Sure. I would note there is one minor change.
There is
The-
one change, yeah.
The police department is asking for the speed/message trailer that was budgeted for $35,000. They would ask, they've been looking at some options and recommended by a
Two
sign
signs.
company to do separate signs. It wouldn't go over the cost allocated here, it'd just mean two different pieces of equipment. So just making sure that that's, since it wasn't outlined in here, that it'd be two separate pieces, just allowing the flexibility if that works best and cost-wise.
John, did you want to?
Yeah, make a motion to approve.
Okay.
the Capital improvement plan
With,
Including the,
including the amendments that Jessica offered.
perfect. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I do have questions.
Go for it.
And wasn't it, at one point, didn't we cash flow capital improvements for equipment with, like, less than 3 years or we didn't always bond for this, right? Is this the spend, or is this a bonding mechanism?
So we have cash flow part of it, and we bond for part of it. So we've been putting more money aside. We've always bonded for equipment, but we have, since 2013 or so, started putting money aside, so we're bonding less. So we have continued to do that with the 2023 budget. I believe we're at $325,000 that goes towards it. So we're working on getting to that pay-as-you-go model.
Yeah.
We're just not quite there. And this particular plan actually allows us to change some things and have approximately $38,000 in savings. We're
Yeah.
anticipating.
I like what they did. I just would like to someday cash flow our capital that with less than like a 10-year time horizon or 5-year time horizon.
And I think the five-year
Cool.
financial management plan, we're going to continue to work towards that, where we are at a point that we don't have to bond for items.
The chart, improvement plan chart that was provided, is this Am I looking at something different than the mirrors up to what's on the front page? It says 2022 on top, it says draft 2022, 2023. And then like I'm looking for this Toro 72144 tractor on here, I don't see it.
If I can jump in, that's the change. So I grabbed this is the latest version that was adopted at the January 27th meeting, straight
Okay.
from the PDF. So what the gold means on here was the pre-orders. What the red were the changes that were adopted on the January 27th meeting. So this is just a reference document from the January 27th meeting.
Oh, okay.
And so I didn't have time to add in on top of the PDF, so my breakdowns were changes to this document. So you would not see the 72144 Toro mower, because that's replacing the the other two mowers, or the Land Pride 15-foot flex mower for $18,000, as well as the John Deere 1545 mower. Both of the Land Pride and the John Deere are in that table for those amounts.
Okay.
We're pulling those out and replacing it with the single mower that does the same purpose. The tandem dump truck, just to quickly go through this, we had in our plan to resale that, to give that back, trade that in. We're seeing crazy lead times on snowplow equipment. Like, it's 4 to 5 years if you ordered today. And it's no sign of slowing down. So, the operational team came and said that we can't not get a new snowplow with the potential growth we're facing. If one breaks down, it's a hard commodity to get. So they looked at this and said, we want to keep that. We recognize space is an issue. I thought it was a pretty comprehensive analysis when we had new data with market conditions and new products. So kudos to the operations team for that. And then the other kind of new add was, as we continue to look at space and diversifying equipment and maximizing efficiencies with staffing on the operational level, we had an idea of, basically customizing a tank for a 33,000 gallon tank that would sleeve in, is customized to our trucks, that we could drop in and use that as a water truck. So we can eliminate a smaller water truck, eliminate less trips out there, and we can dual purpose that. So I think that's something we're trying out. If it works, I think we'd probably go towards that even more for those kind of spike events where we need a lot of water trucks, right? We still need a baseline, but instead of having 4 baseline water trucks, if we can have one and have a bunch of things we sleeve in, that just makes sense. So I hope that answers. So what I described here is not in the first exhibit. It's the
Yeah, okay, so that's easier to understand now. So this is the original exhibit, and then what's on the front page is the changes
yeah.
to that CIP. So 175,000 in savings by deferring some of these items, and then additional costs, 137,000 with these new items.
Yep, and I'll just point out that I didn't even get a price for that $1,800 gallon truck, so it's probably even more than the $38,000 savings, but
Okay.
it's provides a pretty good analysis of where we're sitting.
Okay.
Gotcha. Anything else?
I like the creativity, Kevin.
Yeah.
Again, the kudos goes to the operations team. They presented this idea to us, so I want to make sure they get recognized, and it's important for the community to know that they're invested in maximizing the resources we have. They should get all the credit for this.
They're good at that, for sure.
One question, how big is our new water truck now? How many gallons is that?
The newest one I think is 4,000.
Okay,
Yep, just for comparison.
all the
So it's-
comparison and stuff,
Yeah.
and dropping in an 1,800 gallon tank into a dump truck.
We're actually dropping a 3,300 gallon. tank into a
3,300,
dump truck, so,
outstanding.
yeah.
Very cool.
And that was like this new mower, this Toro mower that's on here, it's a new product out
Yeah.
there, and we could combine the two into one. And then that was kind of the team's always out there
Yep.
seeing what we can do and researching. They're not, and that was just an idea they had that they've researched, and I think it's worth trying at that prep. That's a pretty good price point if that works out.
And we can get that mower?
Yep, we've
Shortly.
got locked in. We have until the end of the month to buy it.
Outstanding.
So we will probably authorize that tomorrow, assuming you guys approve tonight.
Is season-ending discount on that at all? or anything?
I'm sure there was a discount.
Just half.
But,
We
yeah,
could buy put options if the price goes down.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good story, honestly. These are the ones that I actually get excited about, because I know it's a big deal to everyone, and it just highlights what you don't see every day going on out there. So.
Pretty cool.
Thank you, Kevin.
There a motion, a second? I think that's all the discussion. Does anyone else, anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Michelle, did you get, who had the motion, a second? Perfect.
Thank you.
Sounds good. And 10C, Alan?
It was brought to my attention from a community member about the park, the Wildflower Park in Ravinia, and how there's no crosswalks across Gleason Parkway, and the concerns about traffic and children crossing that area, you know, from the homes to the south. And consequently, you'd have a concern as well about people from the north crossing to the community pool on the south side of the private pool. So I was talking to Kevin and Matt earlier about it, and you know, they had a good point. We should really think about a larger discussion on a policy about traffic control when we have pedestrian crosswalks in similar areas. So I wanted to get it out there and see if there's support for staff to think of like a policy and when we would implement that. And
Yeah. I think that's a
also,
great
we should
idea.
think about designing in future PUDs. Maybe we don't put neighborhood parks on a corner of a collector's street.
Yeah. I've had a lot of people with the same concerns about
Yeah.
that exact, I'm sure you have too, Jeremy, yeah.
I totally support it. I wonder if we can do our crosswalks with a silo shape.
Yeah. When my street gets one.
Two silos for elevated crossing,
I have a huge concern over here at our park across the street, Rush Creek and stuff. There's people already crossing there. And then they walk down the road because they can't climb the fence and stuff. I know
to City
gotta-
Park?
I know we gotta rebuild, yeah. I know we gotta redesign and stuff going on, but there's people already walking dogs down 10. There's no sidewalk, there's no anything. I'm nervous about
And there should
that,
be
along with
a
your
crossing
concerns.
provided with Three Rivers Trail there, shouldn't there?
Yes.
Some sort of crossing, I don't know, it's been
There's a
determined,
medi-
but.
yeah, I'm sorry to.
Oh, go ahead.
speak. Yeah, there's a median there that was designed as part of that, and the county approved that, so it's basically a landing area, so you can get halfway through and pause while you wait for
Gotcha.
traffic. That's a safety element that the county kind of required, and that's the future Three Rivers Trail. I think it was known that we would have to deal with something on the south side there. Some of the challenge there, that's Hennepin County right away, so
Yep.
we'd have to work with Hennepin County. We have had requests almost in all the new developments about crossings, you know, so at Bellwether, how do you cross Stieg Road? Bass Lake Crossing, there's been, how do I get from north to south? That's a county road, so we don't have really any control of that. We might have some influence in that, but the county
Yeah.
is a challenge in terms of financial, but sometimes safety areas have more funding than regular transportation, so if that's a priority, we just want a comprehensive analysis of it so that we can identify what decision points so we don't get them on every corner, because some of the collectors do serve a purpose, more of a, you know.
I don't want to delay Alan's thoughts on, and the input from the residents on our roads and what we can control, but down the road, we've got to do something with the county too, even though they don't listen to us. Would Bottom County listen to us on stuff like that?
Yeah, Independence County or Bottom County.
I was thinking
yeah,
Bottom.
Whatever, yeah. All about the
I'm
people.
making light of it. I just.
Freedom and the people.
I don't want to derail this.
No,
It's two different things.
it's really hard because there's really not that effective, there's not for all that we talk about the walkways and whatever and parks, and we have super busy 7,000 to 10,000 trips per day roads that intersect a lot of our town.
Yep.
And how we bridge that is a good pun, but also I don't know necessarily how, we I don't know how we do it, but we got to think about it.
I don't think we should not think about it, but I think in the places where we know there are issues, I'd like to see us take action over the next month before it freezes, so it can be ready in the spring. If we have the capability, just go in and paint crosswalks, we have the authority to do it, we know where it's needed, let's do that. We can work on maybe a work session for a policy over the winter months, maybe.
I'd support that.
Yeah, I think from what Kevin was mentioning is where, how many, because there are, so what's kind of the understanding how many places we'd want to do it as part of, from a staff perspective, is because they're collector roads and are tried to be designed to have traffic flow through, would we be looking at one per area, one per neighborhood? Those would be kind of the things we'd want some feedback on before we.
I think we could definitely look at density around the area, right? We don't need something that's in the middle of the rural area
Yeah.
of town to get across the future horse trail. But definitely where you've got, hundreds of kids running around on a daily basis, it makes sense.
Maybe where we have neighborhood parks as a,
There's another area that was brought to light at Night to Unite, where the Three Rivers Trail that parallels 19, there's a number of city streets that crosses that used to have crosswalk markings that have been just worn away over time. I think repainting those would also be good, because they were there at one point. You can see the little triangles where they're left, where cars haven't rubbed them out yet. I would look at that trail, because I know that gets used quite a bit by those folks out on the rural side, too.
Isn't there a process, because government can't just go and paint lines on a road where it makes sense? Isn't there some sort of pretty extensive process for marking, designing? Because
I don't know.
it could be like traffic, it could impact traffic in a negative way. Like they want to,
particularly in.
I just think that, I don't want to poo-poo the idea, but I want to set expectations that I believe the traffic engineers have to get involved, and there are certain criteria.
Where and when.
Yeah,
the
so-
Crosswalk should be put in place.
Yeah, so I don't know if we'll be able to do it fast, but fast in government terms is starting something,
By
and then
spring.
maybe spring it will come to fruition.
Yeah, I think painted crosswalks.
Am I right about that?
Cautionary sign are
Yes.
probably not gonna have much impact, though, on traffic flow. At least they give warning to people that there's a crossing ahead of them.
I think staff would advocate for a more, less reactionary and more thoughtful kind of policy discussion, just in terms of, because there's unintended consequences. You go out there and do something, if there's not the right signage and someone gets hurt, there's unintended consequences. And so we want to be thoughtful of that before we go. That's kind of the part of the policy decision. So I think to Councilmember Nichols, I think I was aware of some of those. Those are, I believe most of those, if not all of them, are county crossings
Yeah.
and Three River Trails crossings. So that would be their responsibility. We can certainly, if it's an existing crosswalk, it's probably easier to be reactionary and say, get it painted in that. And I think those specific cases, those are either Three Rivers or county. If they didn't want to do that, we can't really do work in their right of way. I mean, we could, but we might have consequences, so.
The one that I saw was Oakdale.
Oakdale, okay. So, I guess I can figure out if that was ever applied by us, if that's Three Rivers, because there is maybe some, we can follow up on that specific crossing. You just don't want to, like, just to John, Councilmember Spadafore, you want to be mindful and make sure everything's signed according to standards, or you could have issues even though you're intending to provide a benefit. And so that's where we just want to get the experts involved and be thoughtful with a process and a policy, taking all the factors into play.
Yeah, I think we have time, right? You're coming to the end of the season when kids are gonna be out. Pretty soon there's gonna be snow on the ground. People aren't gonna be using the parks. So we have the winter time to plan and prepare for the spring. But in the spring, we're gonna have, 50 more homes in each one of those areas with how many more kids and whatnot. So I think we do have time to prepare, but I think we should be prepared so that in the spring we can take action of some kind.
Yeah, if that's a policy goal of the council, we can certainly start establishing those meetings and conversations and bring back ideas or, however it shakes out. But yeah, now would be a good time to prepare. If we want something in place come construction season, a plan or a project or whatever, we'd want to start the process now. Because it will probably take a little bit, because it is probably a more complex conversation than it's just intuitively, it's like we can just do this.
Yeah.
But it's more complex from a number of angles than that.
So do we have consensus that we'd
Can
like staff
we-
to
Kevin and I can work on
investigate it?
investigating.
And
that.
public safety will be part of
And
it too.
Public safety and likely some of our folks that help us with traffic.
Yep.
Sounds
from the
good.
city engineer.
Yeah,
If we're-
let's think about when we do have the next PUD come in, that we plan for these things a little bit better.
That's a good call.
Pass that on to.
Yeah, we can share the plan, the comment about the parks, we can share as, hey, this came up. Let's keep this in mind when we're
Yep.
seeing
Yeah.
concept plans, if that's kind of the consensus of council.
I think also being careful on how often we allow the sidewalk side of the street to change, because that also forces people to go across the street instead of staying on the same side.
Okay. I think that's it for.
Good discussion.
Good idea.
Oh, thank you for the
bringing it up.
person that brought it to my attention.
Staff reports, we have a park dedication update.
Yeah, just a brief update for council that we've been working through, finalizing some of those numbers and working with the assessor's office to make sure that our numbers that we had previously and their numbers were a bit off. So I'm still working so we've done some identifying of some parcels we want included, so we can finalize those numbers. We're hoping to have a public hearing at the November Planning Commission. We have it ready to be noticed for that. We'll be looking at making amendments to park dedication in November, and then adopting changes to not only the subdivision ordinance, also to the fee schedule.
Sounds good. Any questions? Okay, then the last thing I believe we have is the closed session. So the city council is going into closed session to consider an offer for real estate under the authority of Minnesota Statute 13D.05 subdivision 3C3. The city is permitted to close a meeting, consider offers and counteroffers for the purchase or sale of real or personal property. The city council is going into closed session to consider an offer for real estate. The following property is subject of the closed meeting. 19951 Oswald Farm Road.
Recording